Hello! Welcome to Brain Spill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and today I have the absolute honour of being able to talk about one of arguably the most influential musicians of all time. I, of course, am talking today about Ozzy fucking Osbourne. And today I don't really need a witty intro, mainly because that should be enough just to excite you. Okay. Just before we start the video, I need to say something. I've been stuck inside my house for almost 2 months, and this is getting a bit out of control, so save me the effort in the comments and just pray that I can have a haircut soon, okay? Yes, as the title suggests, this man has led an incredible life. One that's been varied, full of drama, and generally just unbelievable. And today I want to talk about some of the highlights of Ozzy Osbourne's career, mainly because it's an incredibly interesting read. If we're going to be taking a whistle-stop tour of Ozzy Osbourne's life, we may as well start on the 3rd of December 1948, the date he was born. John Osbourne was born in Birmingham, England. Now, anyone that knows the UK is aware that Birmingham isn't really anywhere to shake a stick at. No offence. But at the time period that Ozzy was born, this was post-World War II, and the UK was currently going through a pretty bad economic depression, which made everything a little bit more miserable. He was one of 6 children in his family, and living in an area of Birmingham that wasn't so desirable, getting a job post-World War II wasn't easy, which made living in that reality quite difficult. Ozzy Osbourne in his younger days was employed in quite a few jobs, which included a construction site labourer, a trainee plumber, toolmaker, car horn tuner, and then eventually a slaughterhouse, where he threw up multiple times in a week during his first few weeks of employment, mainly due to the fact that his job in the slaughterhouse was to cut up the dead animals, so you've got to have a pretty strong stomach to do something like that. In fact, Ozzy worked at this slaughterhouse for about 18 months until he was eventually let go due to an incident where he allegedly hit a colleague with a large metal pole due to the fact that his colleague was making fun of him. I can't say I've ever worked with anyone like that before, but Ozzy's one of a kind. Following this taste for chaos, Ozzy decided to fend for himself for a little while. He did petty crimes, stole a few things, and even tried robbing the corner shop around the corner from his house. I would say it was so he could make ends meet, but as a young British lad, I can probably agree that it was more so the fact that he just wanted enough money to go get a pint down the pub. On his final attempt to rob the shop that backed onto his house, Ozzy was wearing gloves which didn't cover the thumbs, meaning that he left his prints all over the crime scene. And it was even alleged that a TV had fallen on top of him whilst he was trying to ransack the place. So when he was nicked, he didn't really have a leg to stand on. As a result of this, Ozzy was arrested and he served a 2-month sentence before being released in 1966. Fresh out of prison and unsure what to do with himself, Ozzy decided to advertise himself as a lead singer for a band, despite the fact that he's never had any prior experience doing this before. He just thought he'd try his luck. Ozzy decided to put an ad in his local music shop, and that was when none other than Geezer Butler responded to the advert. The future guitarist for the legendary heavy metal band Black Sabbath. But we are jumping ahead of ourselves a little bit here, because they were first in bands called Music Machine and Rare Breed. However, they quit in the end because they didn't think it was going to go anywhere. After this, Ozzy thought that the ad had gone down and he didn't really bother with music at that time. Little did he know that the ad was actually still in the music shop, and 2 more people approached him looking for a lead singer for their band. That was none other than Tony Iommi and Bill Ward. So just thinking about it, if this music shop had decided to take down that advert, the band Black Sabbath and heavy metal as we know it probably wouldn't exist, which is really, really strange to think about. The 4 would go on to eventually form a band named Black Sabbath, and they released their self-titled debut album, Black Sabbath, in 1970. The formation of Black Sabbath and the release of this album really was the dawn of a new genre of music. Heavy metal was officially here. Black Sabbath are now considered forefathers of heavy metal alongside Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin, commonly known as the Unholy Trinity or the foundations of heavy metal. To say a lot of music in the charts in the 60s and 70s was largely to do with pop music, it was surprising to see a band like Black Sabbath on their debut album get to number 8 in the charts. And really, since then, the Sabbath machine rolled on. Ozzy toured and played with Black Sabbath, releasing multiple albums for almost a decade following this, until 1979, where he was promptly fired from the band due to his behaviour. Although Black Sabbath had toured the world and released some of the most iconic records of all time, Ozzy really was struggling with substance abuse, and that started having an impact on the band and the rest of the members as a whole. Something which really indicated that there was a problem was due to Ozzy's subpar live performances during the Never Say Die tour. What was really the final nail in the coffin, however, was when the band got together to record their next follow-up album, and Ozzy just decided to not turn up to recording. He just disappeared for 6 months. No one knew where he was probably just out partying. Tony Iommi commented on this and said, "We just couldn't continue with Ozzy. As much as everyone wanted us to, we just couldn't do it. Nothing was happening and it would have meant the end of the band. We didn't want to fire him, but we had to if we wanted to continue." What you have to remember at this point as well was Black Sabbath really was Ozzy's life. Before this, he'd worked a few jobs here and there, but had really just coasted through life, not without much purpose, until he joined Black Sabbath. So, to be fired from something that you worked on for so long and really helped build from the ground up, it must be pretty heartbreaking. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel betrayed by what happened with Black Sabbath. We were a few blokes who'd grown up together a few streets apart. We were like family, like brothers, and firing me for being fucked up was hypocritical bullshit. We were all fucked up. If you're stoned and I'm stoned and you're telling me that I'm fired because I'm stoned, how can that be? Because I'm slightly more stoned than you are? I was considering reading that in a Brummie accent, but I don't think anyone wants to hear that. As you can probably tell, Ozzy didn't really take this too well, and you can get greater insight into this in the new music video Ozzy released from his new album, Under the Graveyard, which depicts what happened in the few months following this firing. Ozzy effectively locked himself in a hotel room and just drank and took drugs for God knows how long. In Ozzy's memoir, I Am Ozzy, Sharon Osbourne found Ozzy Osbourne lying in a puddle of his own piss while smoking a joint, which really goes to show how destructive his behaviour was at this time. At this time, Sharon wasn't actually with Ozzy Osbourne, but she certainly did help him through this turbulent time, got him back on his feet, and tried to get him back into the music industry. Sharon even helped Ozzy spearhead a new band under the name Blizzard of Ozz. She effectively became the band manager and would be the one responsible for recruitment going forward in the band. And eventually they would come across the legendary guitarist Randy Rhodes. Here come the 1980s, heavy metal was even more mainstream than it was before. With Ozzy releasing 5 studio albums during this time in his life, he still had prevalent drugs and alcohol, but was always managed to be kept under control by his new band manager, Sharon, who managed to tame the Prince of Darkness. Everything was not quite so peachy, however, because at this time, their relationship had been strained due to the constant arguments Ozzy and Sharon had, predominantly to do with Ozzy's drug and alcohol abuse. Ozzy's time as a solo artist would not come without its own trials and tribulations. One of the most famous of all was the infamous moment where Ozzy bit the head off a bat when he was playing on stage. And even if you've never heard of Ozzy's music before, you've probably heard of this story. During a show in Des Moines, Iowa on the 20th of January 1982, Ozzy was live on stage where someone in the audience threw up what he thought was a toy bat. So, like anyone would, he decided to grab it and take a huge chunk out of the bat, only realising that it was a little bit more gritty and bloody than he first realised it probably would have been. Yep, he'd just realised he'd bitten the head off a real bat. After the show, Ozzy was taken to Broad Lawns Hospital to have rabies shots to, make sure he didn't contract anything for eating a bat. And of course, this is definitely the last time anyone has ever done this in the world. Not like eating bats would cause any other further problems we have. No siree. Fun fact, in January 2020, Ozzy released a plush toy bat that you could buy with a removable head in order to celebrate the 37th anniversary of this infamous matter. This whole incident only led to more skepticism from parents of music fans who were concerned who this Brummie bat-eating psycho was. All of these factors, in particular because of the fact he was from Birmingham, All of these factors made him an extremely controversial character, but probably more so than anything, cemented Ozzy's legacy. A few months after this, however, something else would occur which arguably had an even bigger impact on the band, and that was the unfortunate death of their guitarist, Randy Rhodes. Randy Rhodes was with two other people in a passenger plane doing flybys of the local area. They decided to do another flyby, and when doing this, they had lost control of the plane. It spun out and hit a tree. When the plane hit the tree, it span out of control into the house. The plane was engulfed in flames, and all three passengers were killed immediately. You're grieving, and you learn to live with the passing of your friend. Someone who I owe my career to. Someone who saved our lives by turning the plane from actually completely crashing into the bus where we were sleeping, and just clipping the bus instead. The touring started just 10 days after this incident, and Ozzy and the band decided to go ahead, which must have been hard because they didn't really have the chance to mourn their guitarist and friend. But they pressed on, and in Ozzy's words, he said it's what Randy would have wanted. You can't kill rock and roll. And you know what? This video is only scratching the surface of some of the crazy antics that Ozzy got up to. I haven't even mentioned the times where Ozzy was on tour with Lemmy for Motorhead, the time in '84 when he got arrested for being literally too pissed to walk, the time that he went into a record producer's office and bit the head off a live dove, one he knew that was real, and of course the time that he snorted fire ants with Motley Crue. It was just one crazy thing after another, and Ozzy was going full throttle. And as all things do, through the passage of time, and as the 80s came to its end, bands and artists in the grunge and Britpop genres were dominating the mainstream, and heavy metal was taking a backseat. Somehow though, Ozzy Osbourne managed to survive. Despite the fact that many hair metal bands of the time slowly faded into obscurity, somehow Ozzy Osbourne managed to hold on to his fame and notoriety and pressed on with touring and releasing music. In the 90s, however, this wasn't the only change Ozzy Osbourne would go through, as at this time in his life, Ozzy was now a family man. He had children of his own with his wife Sharon, and he was even slowly but surely reaching a life of sobriety. I wasn't a violent person, but I did have some very stupid things in my life. I could have killed myself 1,000 times before I even got a microphone in my hand. I had some crazy years with drugs and alcohol in the 70s and 80s. For about 20 years I was drinking a lot of booze and doing a lot of drugs and living the lifestyle. Then it stopped working for me, and so I had to get help. Now I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, but I'm definitely living on borrowed time. I don't think I could have honestly put it better myself. Ozzy had been using substance abuse to the max for 20-ish years, and really at this point, I think it's time for him to seek some peace and stability in his life, especially because of the fact he has other responsibilities now. And honestly, I don't think anyone can knock him for that. Ozzy would keep touring and releasing new music. However, the biggest thing to happen to him during this time was in 2002, where Ozzy Osbourne and his family would star in a new TV show, Meet the Osbournes, and their celebrity status was elevated to new heights. This show delved deep into the behind the scenes of the Osbournes and their day-to-day life, which was an instant success when it was released on TV. In the new millennium, Ozzy would work up to now about 12 solo albums, and he would even rejoin Black Sabbath in the help of producing and releasing their final album, 13, in 2013. He would then tour with Black Sabbath on their final tour, which, I'm not gonna lie, I saw, and it was pretty epic. With the passage of time, the Prince of Darkness has had a couple of accidents throughout the years, mainly of which one that almost killed him, where he had a quad biking accident. As a result of this, he had broken his collarbone, he had damaged the vertebrae in his neck, and also damaged 8 ribs. In addition to this, Ozzy Osbourne has been diagnosed with pneumonia, which has caused his most recent tour, No More Tours 2, to be delayed. And he even had a fall which exacerbated the condition and furthered the route of recovery for him. Ozzy was also diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2019, which he didn't make public until January 2020. He has been seeking treatment for this, which apparently finished in Switzerland in April 2020. Ozzy Osbourne has said that he will never truly quit music and he'll pretty much keep going until he drops dead. mainly because of the fact that he was born for it and he absolutely loves it. And from personal experience, I saw Ozzy play with Black Sabbath, and I've also seen him in his own shows for the Ozzy Osbourne solo material, and he absolutely goes for it. Even though he is getting on a little bit with his age, you can tell that he absolutely loves it, and everybody that goes to watch him can truly appreciate it. The man still puts on a killer show, so if you ever get the chance to see him, I would highly recommend it. Nobody can argue with the fact that regardless of what Ozzy's been through, he is a legend in the music world, and honestly, everybody just wishes him all the best, and he needs to take the time he needs to fully recover and get back out there and love doing shows once more. God bless Ozzy Osbourne. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to be notified as soon as I upload my next video, be sure to hit the bell button. And if you've got any ideas as to what videos you'd like me to discuss next, let me know down in the comments below. As always, sources used in the video will be in the description. Right, well, when I edit this video, I'm going to stick on my Ozzy Osbourne playlist and just play it on repeat until I've finished editing this video, so at least you know what I'll be doing for the next few hours. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic.